Please remember, you tracks and those things. Fate of the World, Tipping Point, made in 2010 by Red Redemption. So, hello again, it's been a long time. This is a game I've been... well, I had a long pause, about a year, but I used to play this a little bit, and now I picked it up again, and since I'm actually decent at the game, I decided to record it for once. Here are the achievements I do have right now, and unfortunately I haven't recorded those. Well, I play for myself sometimes too, not just for the internet. So, today I think I've been wanting to try to limit my global warming below even lower than the 3 degrees that it says here. By the way, I'm using an unofficial patch to this game, so it's just slightly different. I think it's how the game should have been from the start, actually. Is there an even better place to a scenario to do this then? I think we'll go with Earth Day, since it's probably going to be easier to get it below 2.5, maybe even 2 degrees. Maybe I'll try to go with 2 degrees. That could be a bit of a challenge. So, President, I have some name, some names that I sometimes feel like using, and that's one, just incredible. And who could forget the infamous dictator, for example, for that apocalypse scenario or whatnot. Is recording right? Yes. But for today, I think I will be playing as Remarkable. Your Excellency, Remarkable. Yes, that sounds good. Since... well, that's something I feel like playing today, and also because I tend to place my headquarters in one of the Africas. It has to do with the fact that the more developed nations, usually I put the Tobin tax in them and whatnot, so they have a very low stability. Whereas the Africas I tend to develop from the get-go more, and they'll have a lot of free space there, and this doesn't sound like a very Western name, at least, so I'm going to go with that. When environmental collapse cannot be ignored, how should civilization respond? Fate of the World. "2010, through a decade of economic uncertainty and growing civil unrest, the world faces the most erratic weather ever recorded. 2018 Cyclone Sanvu. Experts are calling Sanvu the world's first hurricane. Smashing into an already storm-beaten coastline, officials fear that the devastation here will be felt for years to come. By 2100, dangerous temperatures are a deadly possibility. Shrinking ice caps may result in the extinction of the polar bear in mere decades. Evacuation. The president of the Maldives admits inevitable migration. With the seas rising around the islands, the president pleased to the leaders of the world to act against further climate change. 2020 Climate Summit. The world responds. Protection of our environment is too important to our future to remain governed by the short-sighted carelessness of individual nations. The Global Environment Organization will act where action is needed, with the will and support of all nations to ensure a better future. A mix of celebration, skepticism and fear as the controversial GEO is established. All eyes are now on President Remarkable to see precisely what kind of measures the GEO will take. Phew, and I actually managed to read it all. I'm surprised. Well, since this is the unofficial patch, there's going to... Well... in some ways it's going to be harder even, but mostly I think it's going to be easier. In the base game I wouldn't be confident putting an agent in all of these areas, but since I do have this patch, I'm going to do just that. The Tobin taxable countries in the beginning are North America, Europe, Russia, Japan and Oceania. So that's just what I'm going to do. By the way, what this is going to do is create a tax on financial transactions, with all monies raised over the cost of collection going to the GEO. It raises money, helps fix and avoid financial collapse, but the commercial sector is going to have a minus 15% performance while active. So I think it's mostly a good positive card. If you need the money, that's an easy way to get 100 more. But it also lowers their liking to you, regional support. Yes, that's what that is. So since we are playing this scenario, what's this called? Earth Day, we have our outlooks at a green. Maybe I should have picked some other scenario to show what the other outlooks do. Maybe I'll play this more in the future. Anyway, green is pretty much the optimum, at least until the late game, where you already have like even negative carbon emissions. So that's our win condition. Reached the year 2200 with global warming below 3 degrees. But I think I'm going to try to limit myself even more than that. So let's see here. Loose conditions. Global Human Development Index HDI falls below 0.5. That should be easy. If it was, if even one country falls below 0.5, then maybe it would be still possible I could lose from that, but that's just I'm already a good enough player that's never going to happen unless I specifically try to fail. Also, you are banned from 7 or more regions. I've never had that happen. Warming is 3 degrees or above in 2200. You lose control of a GEO HQ region. That's a reason also why it's really a great idea to put it somewhere where your regional support is going to be awesome, like the Africas in the mid game, when I'm going to be thinking about such a thing. Our bonus objectives. Okay, we actually shouldn't lose that many landmark species. That's actually quite difficult to. I've never had a game where I don't lose any of them, even though I nowadays can get a really big surplus on my money and whatnot. I just don't have enough cards, and it requires you to do it so quickly that I don't know. Megadeaths. I've actually managed to avoid megadeaths before. I think it is. Well, I've gotten better at this game before, and maybe it's the unofficial patch also. But there's usually some sort of a fuel crisis, and then there's going to be famine, worldwide financial collapse, all sorts of fun stuff. If you're not as good in the game as me, maybe. I don't know. That's actually something worth, I think, experiencing. Megadeaths. Fun times. Good times. Amazon. How is that even pronounced, I wonder? A rainforest collapse. I think that should be doable. Warming never exceeds 2.5 degrees. Actually, it even has that as a bonus objective. That's nice. Yeah. So, another thing I want to do... in the unofficial patch, these offices. Let's talk about the cards you see here. So there are they are each turn the player will have a handful of cards that they can play. I only have one agent in this country, and not country, region. Yes, let's not be inaccurate. So I can only place one card this turn here, unless I recruit more. I already recruited one agent in this view here. So I have access to this much easier way to recruit agents also now. So what I like to do in Latin America is protect land, soil and forests, because Latin America is one of the big places where it's even possible to lose forests. So that's a good one to try to get going pretty much from the very beginning. Negotiate the suspension of deforestation in Latin America, encourage reforestation and reduce emissions in agriculture. So this is a really long time project. I don't even know if it can complete entirely, but it goes in several stages. I don't think it starts from the reforestation stage, but that would even absorb emissions. I think it just starts from... What am I actually doing? Let's look at here in the wiki. It goes in 3 phases. First, efforts are made to increase the yields and lower the toxicity of agriculture. Next, the logging industry and farmland expansion are tackled to stop deforestation in the region. Lastly, once deforestation has been stopped, large-scale reforestation and afforestation efforts are implemented. So that's what it does. So that's exactly what we are going to do here. Protect land, soil and forests. In the base game, if I was in the base game, I would put up a political office, an environmental protection office, and a regional welfare office in Northern Africa, because it has a low stability, it has, poor education. Can I actually even show it here? Literacy is 0.54, not very good. So yeah, it needs more HDI, Human Development Index, which consists of 3 parts: GDP per capita index, life expectancy, which, yeah, that's also low. You need medical facilities for that, and the education index. Middle East is also one of those regions that is very unstable from the beginning, and Russia, well, I think in most of the scenarios it starts on even stability, but if it goes below that, you can't levy a Tobin tax, and as I've told you, it's a big part of your budget, at least in the beginning of the game, so really you want the Tobin tax and want you that stability to stay high, so you should also put up a political office here. But since this is the unofficial patch, you don't need to. You get this. They don't cost anything, and in fact you get them automatically for free on your very next turn. So it's a waste of space to even put them. I just only recently noticed that that's even the case. Nobody's told me of such a thing, but yeah, that's something you want to do. Not put those in this unofficial patch if you are using it. What I'm going to do in Europe is start switching transport to electricity. It converts Europe's local transport to electric power, about 3,000 terawatt HE, what is that? Terawatt hour equivalent, probably. Local transport converted to electric each turn, but it increases electricity needs in proportion and does not affect international transport. So why am I going to do it in Europe, you ask? Because let's look in here, I think. It's got one of the better energy production mixes from the get-go. It only has 12% of oil in its mix and 22% of coal. I don't even remember which one is worse, coal or oil, but you want both of those down ASAP pretty much in this game. Gas is halfway there. Uranium, I've never had any problems with... no, that's not true. If I've actually tried to make... okay. I think when I was not as good of a player, I did have some nuclear warfare taking place. So that's a problem that starts when you get to fourth generation nuclear capabilities. Yeah, but really it's... it's worth the risks if you can just avoid so much instability that it goes into war, and I think that's very much doable once you get the hang of it a little bit. Japan is one of the other two places where the energy mix is pretty decent, not as good as in Europe it seems. Now that I look at it, but yeah, it's not as good, but it's also something you might want to consider to put up. Switch transport to electricity. Yes, I never actually explained why we are even looking at this energy production thing. Yes, so different mixes have different footprints of emissions. So obviously, if your I think your vehicles normally use gas as their source of fuel, if I'm not mistaken. So, gas, gasoline, I think that's. Yeah, no. Actually, gasoline is made from oil. Yes, that's what they use. So yeah. I had to think there for a little bit to get the correct thing. So it's pretty much worth it to, since oil is the one of the alongside with coal, it's the really bad way to source of consumption. I don't know. It makes a lot of emissions. So if you can just switch your economy from using oil and coal to something else, usually it's electricity. So you're already going toward in the correct direction, pretty much. Only if you are lowering gas or nuclear or renewable. I don't even know if that's possible to lower your renewable share. Then it might actually start getting detrimental to switch to electricity. So electricity is this thing that you maybe you already get the idea and I'm just stalling here. So another thing, coal-free industries, one of the things I really want in China and maybe India, I don't know. India is one of the harder, I think the hardest place to keep your HDI high. I don't even know what I would need to look at to know whether. I think it's somewhere in the industry tab, like here, like uses these things. I don't even know what I should be looking at. Maybe this coal use, it uses a lot of coal here. So what we are going to do is put up a coal-free industry. And I have some notes here because I am not a good player still. I'm just going to look at whether I'm supposed to be using coal-free industry anytime soon. No, it doesn't look like that India is going to require that. So we are not going to put that up in India unless I feel like doing that still. So another thing I'm going to do, since we have this spare money, and what else are we going to do with it since we are not going to be using it for these offices? I'm going to put up protect land and soil and forests in a whole lot of places. Let's see here. Maybe. Actually, I'm interested to see what kind of an energy mix, electricity mix this is. It's not that great. It's not bad either. It's definitely not that bad. What other places? I think. It's pretty much like that. You put protect land, soil and forests in one country, and then another country uses their forests to... yeah, it's a whack-a-mole game. Pretty much you'd have to put it everywhere to really not have it going on anywhere. So, I think that's a pretty good first turn. I only have $20 billion, 20 space bucks to spend. By the way, these buttons here show our population change. It's pretty stable all around the world. It seems like there's some decline there, some growing population there. India is a huge place where it's growing. I like to put up a one-child policy there because of that reason. North Africa is another place where it's debatable whether you should put that. I think it's one of the Africas. Yes, No, it's Southern Africa where it's debatable whether you should put that up, and China, simply because of its huge population from the beginning. But if you look at the graphs here, it's not that in that steep of a rise. And in fact, it's going to start pretty quickly leveling out and even falling off. So it's debatable whether you should even use one-child policy there. Temperature change. Right now, we don't have a lot of temperature change from the 1750. Mostly like in the northern hemisphere, pretty much. Earth change. For some reason the music cuts out when I do this sort of a thing usually, but it's going to come back soon, don't you worry. So we already have shrinking ice caps and what's not. So, here we go. World headlines. Rise in Arctic methane reported. 0.0975 degrees warming from Arctic methane. Melting ice and permafrost in the Arctic region is resulting in large quantities of methane constantly being released from the seabed and newly exposed wetlands. Resulting in an increased greenhouse effect. So this is what you mostly are going to be looking at, the temperature here. So we started at 1 degrees and it's already risen to 1.1 degrees, yes, it even says there. Since the pre-industrial whatever, and it predicts that we will reach like 2. Is that 2 there in 2100? Not going to happen. We would even lose the game if that were to happen. and it predicts that we would rise up to 6 degrees, melting a hot frying pan of an Earth, if that were to ever happen. There is that one scenario, Dr. Apocalypse, where you are actually aiming for that high temperature of 6 degrees.